Hey everyone, welcome back at our podcast about aging well. And today is one of my favorite topics. It's about nutrition. And we are extremely lucky to have Elissa Lueckemeyer, who is the owner and founder of Food for Success. And so, welcome. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're really excited to have you here. And obviously, one of the first things that my patients always say, because I'm a geriatrician, I only see 65 and older. They said, like, well, I'm too old to worry about nutrition. I mean, I kid you not, Alyssa. They say that all the time, like, I'm too old, I've eaten hot dogs my whole life or whatever. And I said, I want you to think about it this way. Think about if you're like a brand new car coming off the car lot, right? And then you can put in any type of gasoline you want, and I can almost guarantee you that you're gonna run fine, right? That's what I always liken to. But
Mhm.
just imagine if you have a car that's been driven for 75 years or 80 years, right? I mean, logic tells you that the cleaner fuel that you put in your car, better you're going to run. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell my clients it's never too late. The quality of life that they want to have,
Mhm.
I mean, that all comes down to how we eat and our day-to-day habits. And I think a lot of times there's a lot of apprehension with fearful of taking away favorite foods and things like that. But it's really about adding the good stuff in and making sure we're meeting the needs that their individualized needs. So, yeah.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues, a lot of my patients come in, they're confused, right? They look online, they're on TV, and any given day, they're talking about this diet or that diet, right? About, well, Mediterranean diet, Atkins diet. Now, there's like a
Mm.
million diet names, and like, well, which one should I be? And so, can you talk a little bit about that? Why, there's so much confused messaging out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the world of social media, I mean, we have a lot of confusion out there, and I don't blame people at all for being frustrated. But it is getting back to some of the simpler concepts. We tend to overcomplicate things in social media, and everything's got to be a green smoothie kind of thing. But we, as dietitians, and then just general healthy eating, we can tailor plans to you to incorporate foods that you've grown up with and that you like, and we can teach you how to balance those. And going over specific needs for your age group and things like that too.
So one of the big things as you age that people don't realize, and I tell my patients in the mirror, I said, I want you to look in the mirror, and I said, whatever you see on the outside happens on the inside.
Mm.
So I tell them like you have gray hair, so your digestive tract gets gray hair. What that means is it slows down. So when we talk about nutrition, if you don't know, and one of the examples I give to my patients is, okay, when you're in college, you can eat, any type of Taco Bell or pizza at 2 in the morning and have a six pack, and you're fine next morning, right? Try that when you're 70 years old, right? And your body will tell, like, what in the world are you doing, right? And
Mhm.
so, can you talk a little bit about that? How you customize patients regarding what chronic illnesses they have and also their age.
Exactly. And I think this is where sometimes social media they give blanket statements on nutrition, not taking those individual things into account. But yeah, we're a little bit less forgiving at that age, and what we eat really reflects in how we feel. And so, looking at digestion, I know you've been probably hearing a lot about the gut brain
Mm-hmm.
connection.
Mm-hmm.
So the better our gut health is, the better our mental health and our immunity. So I'm really big into promoting gut health. So I think one of the biggest things I see is the very low carb movement, like keto, Atkins, paleo. And then the drawback with that is a lack of fiber. And fiber is what we need to feed our gut microbiome. So I do see people like they're trying to do the right thing, but sometimes that can backfire. Or they're just not sure how to put together a balanced meal. How much is too much carbohydrate? That kind of thing. What foods are right for me? And so, yeah, social media, it might say, hey, this worked great for me, but would it work great for you? So there's a lot of confusion out
Yeah,
there.
Alyssa, that's a really important point. We tend to generalize, and and just blanket statement everything and do a cookie cutter approach, and that's absolutely the worst. And same thing with meds too. I have patients coming, well, my sister takes it. Well, you're not your sister.
Yeah.
I get that all the time. But the same thing with food. It's just, to me, it's mind-boggling when patients come in and yeah, they don't think what they put in their bodies every single day doesn't impact how they feel.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to understand where that disconnect comes from. And so, can you give me some pointers on how I can maybe talk to my patients better and how to make that connection?
Yes, I know there's a common misconception that eating healthy is very expensive and it's very labor intensive. And of course, that would put you off and kind of sticking to older habits. But there are things that social media doesn't really promote. For example, um, purchasing frozen or no added salt produce. And it's more budget friendly and they freeze at peak ripeness. It's still just as nutritious and a great way to get fruits and vegetables in. I know that there's a lot of push for like you only can eat organic. Everything has to be organic, and for some that may not be feasible. I can tell you that the pesticide residue on conventional produce, as long as you're washing it well, you can still have access to good, nutritious fruit and vegetables. It makes me so mad when I see people say they can't afford organic, so they're not eating fruits and vegetables. So, simple things like that we can just kind of basically simplify again and find that balance. You're having a protein, you're having half your plate vegetables, you're getting a high fiber carbohydrate grain or starchy vegetable, bringing that balance and simplicity back when social media and the media
And TV, yeah,
complicates
yeah.
everything.
They do complicate everything. So another thing about fresh fruits and vegetables you talk about, and there are things on TV and social media they talk about, like just washing it with water is not good enough. Is that true? Do you have to have a special way of washing them? What do you think about that?
No, if you're just rubbing with your hands underwater, that's perfectly fine. I do see like the fruit and vegetable wash sprays, but
Hmm.
sometimes those will actually add chemicals to the food, so I'm not a big fan of that. Washing with your hands and like a rubbing motion is perfectly fine. Of course, we want to practice good kitchen safety techniques and watching for spoilage, turning your leftovers, kind of the 3-day rule for leftovers, things like that to keep you safe.
Yeah, that's important too. I appreciate you saying that because there's a lot of confusion about that too. And then, fiber is such an important part as you get older. Believe me when I tell you, my patients are obsessed with having bowel movements. I mean, literally, as they get older,
That's
and
important.
it is
Yeah.
really important. So, can you talk about that? About how important it is to have like daily bowel movements and the right kind of texture? I call it texture. Is that about a right term, or what would you
Yeah.
recommend? Yeah.
Yeah, the consistency of your bowel movements is definitely going to give us a good picture about what's going on with your health. And so, if we're having severe constipation or diarrhea, that's a lot of inflammation going on. And it could be that our gut and our gut microbiome is not functioning properly, which could be affecting other parts of our health. And with gut, I mean, everyone's gut microbiome is different. It's a really fascinating field, but getting the right types of fiber for that person, whether they have constipation, diarrhea, we can work with the client and get them with healthy bowel movements again. And that just has that domino effect in helping so many other problems.
Well, I'm glad you talked about the gut microbiome, and I think my patients are highly educated, so they read and sometimes they like overdo it. I recently had a lady who came in with like I think 25 different supplements, and five of them were
Oh,
probiotics.
yeah.
So can you talk about like probiotics and when to use them and when it becomes efficacious and when it can actually harm you?
That's a great question. I'm seeing so many supplements out there. We always want to promote natural probiotics from our food first. The problem is with a lot of the supplement probiotics, they may or may not match the natural strains that you have going on in your gut. So sometimes they can help, sometimes they don't do anything at all. And sometimes they can actually cause discomfort or worsening symptoms. So, what we want to do is try to promote your natural flora as much as we can through a high fiber diet. Fiber has the prebiotics that feed the probiotics in your gut, that's their food. And then, if we're still not seeing what we want, we can always trial a probiotic, but definitely pay attention to those symptoms. And if they're not getting any better, then it may not be the right fit for them.
Yeah. And then on that same subject, obviously a lot of my elderly women, they tend to have urinary tract infections,
Oh, yeah.
and so they end up getting lots of antibiotics throughout the year.
Mm.
And so, the concern is, okay, when you take too many antibiotics all the time, you kill off the what we call the good microbes. And so, what do you recommend for those that unfortunately get exposed to a lot of antibiotics?
Sure, sure. We definitely want to slowly build fiber back up. We don't want to introduce it all at one time. That'll be very uncomfortable. Fermented foods like your yogurt, sauerkraut, kefir, all have those probiotics in them that can support that healthy growth. And then lots of fruits and vegetables. I know that's very cliche to say, but
Mm.
that fiber content really helps build that flora back up.
No,
But
it's good.
yeah.
And then a lot of my patients, because they have multiple chronic disease, they have anemia, and you can have something called anemia of chronic disease because you have this chronic inflammation. And so, we talk about, I don't like giving iron pills because it really freezes their gut. And so,
Yes.
can you talk about like some really good foods that they can get natural iron?
Oh, great, great question.
Yeah.
Yes, so dietary iron is definitely tolerated a little bit better. Of course, some of your richest sources of iron will be more of like your red meat, but depending on your overall health history, we may need to limit that and or just make sure that we're making lean choices. Sirloin or round cuts so tend to be your leanest cuts of beef. And then, of course, other meats as well, chicken. Um, Also, there is plant-based sources of iron. So your beans, your lentils, your dark leafy greens. Vitamin C helps with iron absorption. So if, let's say, we have a spinach salad and we make it a citrus spinach salad, we put orange slices on it, that can help you absorb iron a little bit better. I've even had patients start cooking in like cast iron pans
Oh, that makes sense.
because you can absorb some of the elemental iron from that. There's even a product out there called the Lucky Fish. It's an iron fish that you can put like in a stew pot that provides some elemental iron as
Oh,
well.
wow.
So
That's awesome. Man, I didn't know that. See, I love that. I want to get that for a lot of my patients that are really anemic. Yeah.
yes, it's hard. And I know those iron supplements can
Yeah.
really tear up your gut. Sometimes we can recommend a certain form of iron to help them. But yeah, if you can get it through your food first, that's the way to go.
Yeah. Another part that's really important for because the generation that are finally aging is what I call the soda generation. That's when they got really exposed to the Coke and everything, and so a lot of my patients unfortunately still um, partake in a lot of the sodas. And can you
Mhm.
talk about how important how from the liquid standpoint what they should be drinking?
Yes. In a perfect world,
Yeah.
we would like to reduce soda intake, um, especially considering bone health. Phosphorus, too much phosphorus can definitely play a role in
Hmm.
osteoporosis. If we have diabetes, that's definitely a whole nother concern. But I have had patients have success on, I know it sounds a little reluctant, but tapering down. Because what happens is your taste buds actually adapt. They can adapt to a lesser level of sugar in as little as like 2 weeks, kind of
Hmm.
like with salt, too. Your taste buds adapt. And so we'll have them sub out for like sparkling water beverages. um, it doesn't have to just be plain water. We can do herbal teas, stuff like that. The agua frescas, infused waters with like fruits and vegetables, like a strawberry cucumber, just to give water some taste, and without it being the caffeinated, high phosphorus, high sugar sodas. So
Amazing. I could have her for like a year. I mean, just incredible amount of information, and I just can't thank you enough. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I want to make sure that everyone can find you because you're just incredible, source of knowledge. So I
Oh,
have
thank
your
you.
card right here. We're going to zoom it in. But everyone, you need to find Elissa Lueckemeyer. She's the owner and founder of Food for Success. And obviously, you can tell that she's extremely knowledgeable. So look her up. I want every one of you to actually have some time with her and her team because I think it can only benefit for your health and you would age much better. And thank you so much.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.